Hello. Oh, that's really loud. Hello, we're back. This one's gonna be better. So that last one was hard to watch, even for me, and I'm saying I'm doing this mostly for my benefit, but even for my purposes, that was bad. This one will hopefully be better. Anyway, so for this project, I know I set out a goal for myself that I don't think I really made clear in that first video, but I'm trying to work through all the projects that I have started and to subsequently quit halfway through, and I'm going against that immediately. I have printed out a new pattern, and I'm gonna go ahead and work on that instead. I have wanted to make a dress just to wear around the house when I'm at home doing housework, that kind of thing, for a really long time, so I don't feel too guilty about it. I'm also just putting off looking through what I have on the go. I'm not looking forward to that. Anyway, in the name of procrastination, I'm gonna dive right in. Before we get going, this is the Tea House Top End Dress PDF pattern by Sew House 7. So I roughly mapped it all out so I could get a sense of how big the pattern was, and in the time it took me to get up and stand on my table to get a good shot, my darling cat lay down in the middle of everything. I don't know how much of this you can actually see. I'm hoping to do the kind of mid-length here. That's calf length, I think-ish, and that's quite short, but ultimately it will depend on the size of fabric that I have in my stash, because I'm not going fabric shopping in these present times. It's just not gonna happen. Also, the last time I did a PDF pattern, I taped all the pages together and then I cut them out, and things got a little bit wonky. So I think this go around, I'm gonna rough cut the pattern pieces, then tape them together, and then do a final cut so I have a better trace line for my pattern. I'll be totally honest, I don't know how much better rough cutting everything is before doing anything else, mostly because my darling boy insists on helping me. He's done a real number on my layout. I have the body of an 8-year-old and sitting on the floor. Baby. I have the body of an 8-year-old and sitting on the floor cutting paper for the last hour has absolutely destroyed me, so I'm going to make a fabric decision now instead of finishing cutting out my pattern pieces. So these are the two that I pulled out of my stash. I don't actually know if I would have enough of this one. I hope I do, because it's a really nice lightweight kind of wide weave. I think it's a cotton, and this one is polyester, and I will sweat to death in this. It's kind of nice though, it has a little bit of stretch, so that's good. But I guess we'll find out. The sun has set. It's like 5 o'clock. It sucks. There's not enough of the blue fabric, which is unfortunate because I did kind of want to make the dress out of that. But that's okay. Now that I have cut out the pattern and cleaned it up a little bit, I have been looking at it more closely, and I'm not super stoked about the neckline. So we might be messing around with that a little bit, but we'll see. That is a problem for tomorrow. Good morning. It is the next day. It is still dark. I've slept on it. I've tried to sleep on it. He's a menace. I think I know what I'm gonna do with the neckline. I don't have a brain. I'm just gonna do it. You'll see. I'm going to save you from the disaster that was Morning Jude taping paper to her mannequin and trying to figure out how to redraft a pattern. Anyway, so this is what the original pattern looked like.
This is the front side piece, and this is the front yoke. This is the back piece and the back yoke. That's the original. This is what I did. So I brought up the neckline on the front here, and because I did that, I lowered the neckline on the back yoke, which in turn meant I had to lower the rest of the back piece as well. And then I also pushed the front yoke out a little bit so that it was less straight and a little more triangular.
There were a couple other changes I had to make. There was a interfacing piece for the front and back yokes, which I had to edit to match up with my new neckline. And then I also made the angle on the sash less dramatic, because the one that I originally had in the pattern that I printed would be at an angle like that, and it would go down quite low around my waist, and I want it to wrap around a little more evenly. So it still dips a little bit, but it's not quite as dramatic. Alright, so I got everything laid out, and it's surprisingly long. The only place I had in my apartment that was long enough is in my kitchen going into my entryway, which is fun because the cat keeps running over top of it. I've noticed that the fabric stretches lengthwise, so it would be stretching down the garment the way that the pattern recommends I cut it out, which I think I'm just gonna live with. It might cause weird stretching down the road, but that's nothing a little hemming can't fix. At this point I have about half of the pattern pieces marked out. I used whiteout because I can't find my chalk. I think I'm gonna cut out the top two pieces and then slide my fabric along the floor so I have room to mark out these ones without running into the chair, because that is causing problems. Also, for some of the pieces, there is a seam allowance included in the pattern, but these dots here are marked along the edge of where the printout pattern is. Some of them I'm going to cut a little outside of the dotted line so that I can do a French seam. Officially, I'm gonna say it's because I think it's gonna look nicer, but in actuality, it's because I don't feel like pulling out my serger and this stuff frees like crazy, so. I have finished cutting. My back is in shambles from hunching over on the floor, so I think I'm going to iron all my pieces flat, which I probably should have done before I cut them, but oh well, here we are. I think there's supposed to be a facing piece for the front and back yokes, and you're supposed to cut the facings out of the same material that you're just using for the entire dress, but my material is pretty heavy, so I think I'm gonna end up using something a little lighter. I don't know if I have anything in my stash that will really work for it, so I might have to finagle something. Also, I think I'm also going to end up lining the pockets with something a little stiffer so that it has some support if I actually end up putting things in them, which I would like to do, because there's never enough pockets in the world. Anyway, that's probably all I'm gonna end up doing today. I have some other things to get done, but tomorrow, hopefully, I will start putting pieces together. It has been several days since I did anything on the dress. I had to finish some finals, and then I had some health issues that I had to deal with, and it is now 10 days later. Before I put sewing stuff down, I did pick out some yoke lining options, and I think I know which one I'm going to use, but I'm also going to reread the instructions before I do anything, because I have a sieve for a brain, and I don't remember what I was doing. So we'll do that and hopefully jump back in. Alright, so this is the general dress material. These were all the options that I was looking at for yoke linings. I think I'm gonna go with this one just because the colors go a little bit better with this really rich brown. This is the best, this is the best option material-wise, but I don't really like the pink with the brown, so I'm gonna go with this one. Also, I did a bunch of alterations to the pattern that I forgot about, and I'm not totally sure why I did it.
I believe it was something to do with the fact that I didn't think the neckline was gonna suit me. I should have just stuck with it. I don't really remember what I was doing, so I guess we're just gonna have to wing it. Also, I believe I said I was going to line the pockets. I'm not doing that. I wasn't gonna record this. I was just gonna do it. The entire purpose of me making videos about this is to learn things, so I'll show you. So the pattern calls for interfacing for the neckline, and this piece was cut based off of the original pattern, which I am no longer using. So I'm just tracing underneath my new pattern piece and just kind of eyeballing it and going from there. Please pardon the absolutely awful lighting. I now have all the interfacing cut out and ironed in on all the various pieces. Now I think before I lose all of my light for the day, I'm going to do some pre-assembly sewing. So I'm going to sew down this very poorly ironed turned bit there on the back yoke. And then I don't, strictly speaking, think I have to sew down the edge of the little cuff on the pockets here, but this is a raw edge and this brown fabric frays like crazy, so I think I'm going to do that just to be safe. And then, I'm also going to, these are the waist ties. They're ironed right sides out, but I'm going to turn those inside out, sew them together, and then get them right side out again, hopefully before I lose all of my light for the day, and then tomorrow I will actually start assembling. I am also making the executive decision to not follow the instructions, which is not recommended, but because I am doing French seams and the pattern doesn't call for that, I think that changes things a little bit, and I can probably muddle through. Just as I'm sewing here, I find one of the unexpected consequences, results of sewing in an apartment is I sew a lot slower in fear of making too much noise for my downstairs neighbors, which is arguably a good thing. Apparently, in all my masses of various sewing items, I don't own brown thread, so for the pockets I just did a sort of decorative top stitch in a dark greeny blue thread, and hopefully it doesn't look too out of place. This is absolutely going to give away where I live, but if anybody has been to the Tellus World of Science in the body section, this looks like the intestine tube that you have to run little wooden balls through to simulate pooping. Hello! Another several days has passed since the last time I picked up this project. The holidays have passed. I had to deal with Christmas and all that goes along with it. If I remember correctly, I was at the point where I was just putting everything together. I think I vaguely remember turning up the bottom edge of my back yoke, which I think I'm probably going to end up undoing and then just catching that edge in the French seam when I put the back yoke onto just the back panel of the dress, but we'll see. At the very least, I would like to get all the front pieces sewn together before the sun goes down today, so we'll start there. So we've been at this for 15 minutes, and I have already had to pick apart half of what I've done. Don't do what I do. I never use pins, because I am foolish. Just don't. I've also managed to misplace my seam ripper, which has caused unending headache, so great. Love it. My bobbin also ran out about 4 inches ago, so we're doing really good today. This is where I got to yesterday. Please pardon the tape. My pins seem to have disappeared. Also, please pardon my morning voice. I literally just got up. I'm thinking I might not put the cuffs on because I kind of really like that drape, but we'll see how things go once I get everything together. I mean, things are probably going to end up looking a little different once I get the French seam in there.
Also, the side piece is like a solid 3 inches shorter than the front piece, which is super fun. So I guess we'll be fixing that.
I completely forgot about the pockets.
Yes, I know. So, the pockets are a little bit narrower than the front side panels, which shouldn't be too much of an issue because I did cut extra seam allowance on these things and they're quite large. I hope it doesn't cause too many problems, but I guess we'll find out. So what I've done in lieu of pinning, because I still can't find my pins, I have 2 little marks on either side of the pocket. Thank you for that. And then I transferred them to the back of the pocket. I don't know if you can see any of that. There we go. And then other little marks on the side panel pieces so that I can do that and line up the little dots, and that's where my seam will be. And then I can flip it over and iron my seam flat. And then I can just put this into, this edge will be caught in the other seam. I can't explain things. You'll see. And the pockets are attached. I have just ironed them flat so they lay the correct way. I probably should have serged this edge because there's absolutely nothing stopping it from fraying in my pocket. That's just open to the world and whatever I want to carry around with me. But I could not be bothered to bring my serger out. And because I'm lazy, I'm just gonna use Gorilla Glue. So this is where we're at. I only got the front together yesterday. I thought I might be able to get most of it done, but I just got Breath of the Wild like 6 days ago, and that has encompassed my entire being for the last week, so things are not going according to schedule. Anyway, I have picked apart the little folding that I did on the back yoke, and I am now ironing the snot out of it to try and make it flatten out again, and then I'm going to pick out all the little threads, which will be a good time, and then I can start putting it back together. Please pardon my absolute disaster of a kitchen, but it is technically speaking wearable. I have done a very foolish thing. In my effort to make my no-pin life easier, I essentially just assembled the front and the back and then put the 2 halves together and then sewed up the side seams and the shoulders. However, I did not take into account that you would see a raw edge on the seams, there we are, at the neckline when I did it that way. So I should have assembled the entirety of the yoke, front and back, and then put this into the panels. I don't think any of this is making sense. Anyway, all I technically have left to do is putting on the cuffs, which is going to be difficult without pins, and then hemming it, but I'm going to be doing that later after I've let it hang for a bit. I'll figure out something to cover this up. I'm not picking it apart. I'm too lazy. But yeah, that's where we are. In all honesty, I kind of hate it. I don't really like the color on me, and I think the fabric is a little bit too heavy and a little bit too drapey for the style and the cut of the pattern. I'm gonna finish it anyway, but we'll see. Maybe I'll finish it and it'll look a little more put together with the cuffs and a hemline, but maybe I'll make it a mini dress. I don't know. Maybe I'll dye it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's straight polyester, so it probably won't dye, but oh well. Alright, please pardon the absolutely dismal lighting. It is 6 o'clock and dark outside, and the lighting in my kitchen is terrible. I managed to get one of the cuffs on. I did them one at a time, so I didn't get them mixed up, because I think the sleeves are slightly different sizes, and I didn't want to sew together one cuff and then try and get it on the wrong side. It went surprisingly well, considering I don't have any pins. But
That's just the raw edge there. So now what I'm gonna do is hand sew the cuff down over the raw edge. I hung this up in my closet last night to let the seam settle, and the cat got to it. Bless his heart. Anyway, I'm about to do something incredibly foolish. I have marked out, without any kind of measurement whatsoever, where my hemline is going to be. I have decided to make it a mini dress. That's the only way I don't hate it. Yeah, wish me and my foolish endeavors luck. No turning back now. I've given myself about an inch of leeway from where I actually want my hemline to be. I think I'm going to iron that crease in first and then sew it shut, down, whatever. I literally just woke up. I don't have a brain yet. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. And it's done. Well, it's mostly done. There's still a few things that I would like to do to it, but I'm not totally sure how I'm gonna go about that yet, so I will call that mending for later. Yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with the shape of it. I actually managed to finish a project that I started, so that's fun. There are a few things that I would change if I were to do this again. I'm not super happy with the color. It's a gorgeous color, I just don't think it suits me. The material is very warm, even just sitting here, I'm sweating profusely. The neck is a little tight, but I can still get it on, so not the end of the world. The cuffs are a little wonky, but that's because I didn't pin it, because I lose everything. That's another thing. I need to find my pins, my chalk, and my seam ripper. Still don't know where they are. What else? Oh, my machine was getting progressively less good as this project went on, so I'm definitely gonna have to take that in to get her fixed sooner rather than later, before I can move on to anything else that is sewing related. I made it pretty short. It's pretty short, but it's not leaving my house. It's a house dress, so it's not the end of the world. I think that's it. All in all, I'm glad I finished something. For once. Anyway, happy 2021. This is the year of get shit done.